The vast emptiness of space was broken only by the ominous hum of colossal warships as they sliced through the black void. The Ekthar Empire, a galactic power feared by many, had arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system. Their ships were sleek and deadly, brimming with advanced technology that put the human race to shame. The Empire had long considered themselves the true rulers of the galaxy, and they saw the humans as nothing more than a joke. Primitive, insignificant, and utterly unworthy of notice. As the Ekthar fleet made its way toward Earth, the lower-ranked members of the Empire's military whispered of their next target, the rich, resource-filled planets of the Outer Rim. Earth was no exception. To the Ekthar, it was just another unimportant world to plunder, another stop on their endless journey of conquest. The first signs of danger came quickly. Earth's space defense systems, a network of satellite weapons and defense shields designed to protect the planet from cosmic threats, were no match for the sheer power of the Ekthar fleet. The defense satellites, once a proud symbol of humanity's technological achievement, were shredded by the Empire's laser beams in a matter of moments. Across the planet, panic spread like wildfire. News outlets flashed emergency alerts, and military commanders scrambled to organize a response. Yet, in the vastness of space, the human race was outclassed. Earth's most advanced ships and weapons were no match for the overwhelming might of the Ekthar. On the surface of the planet, in the Grand Council Hall of the United Earth Defense, the leaders gathered in an emergency meeting. Generals and politicians alike were staring at the screens in disbelief. They were watching the destruction of their outer defense systems in real time. Their best efforts were futile. The Ekthar were toying with them, proving their superiority at every turn. Back aboard the lead warship of the Ekthar fleet, the commander, Zorak, a towering figure of alien might, watched the chaos unfold. His cold, calculating eyes scanned the transmission of Earth's leaders scrambling to mount a defense. His lips curled into a smile, full of disdain. Such primitive creatures, he muttered in a low voice, barely audible even on his command bridge. It's almost sad how easily they crumble. Zorak turned to face his officers, his powerful voice booming through the quiet room. Prepare the fleet for an orbital bombardment. Earth will be nothing more than a shadow of its former self once we are finished. His words carried the weight of inevitable doom. The Ekthar had decided to make an example of Earth, an easy target for their relentless march across the galaxy. The ships above Earth continued to unleash their devastating firepower. Earth's remaining defenses were soon overwhelmed. Cities crumbled, buildings turned to dust, and the planet's once impressive technological advancements were torn apart as though they were little more than sandcastles before an incoming tide. Yet, despite the overwhelming force that had already begun its destruction, there was one thing the Ekthar had not anticipated: the human spirit. In the midst of the chaos, as Earth's most advanced military leaders tried to form a defense, they were faced with the undeniable truth: they were outclassed. A deep sense of desperation gripped the people of Earth. What could they do? How could they fight back against such a seemingly unstoppable force? In the quiet of a darkened command center, the highest-ranking officers gathered, huddled around a table. One of them, an aged general, slammed his fist against the table. "We need help," he growled, looking around at his colleagues. They all knew the truth. The humans stood no chance against the Ekthar without outside intervention. Desperation soon gave way to a daring thought. An ancient legend told of a time when humanity called on a powerful ally, one that could change the course of any war. The humans had never forgotten their bonds with a race more ancient than their own. The humans had always relied on this mysterious power when they faced seemingly insurmountable odds. The plan, although improbable, was the last hope. A signal was sent, quietly, swiftly, and urgently, into the vast reaches of space. A distress call, not to the Galactic Council, nor to the untrustworthy allies who had betrayed them time and again, but to humanity's last resort. The mysterious, forgotten human alliance. It was a gamble, but it was the only one left. The message sent its way across the cosmos, faint but desperate, toward the distant stars. It was a plea for help, a call to their forgotten protectors. The fate of Earth hung on the thread of this message. Would the humans be able to rely on their mysterious allies once more, or would they face extinction? As the signal shot through the dark void of space, a new hope flickered to life in the hearts of those on Earth's surface. The world's leaders waited with bated breath, staring at the screens, hoping for an answer. The seconds stretched into eternity. And then, far from Earth's reach, something stirred in the deep, uncharted regions of space, a silent, hidden force, waiting in the wings for its moment to strike. Could it be the help the humans so desperately needed? Would they be able to rise against the might of the Ekthar? The silence of space seemed deafening as the transmission faded. Only time would tell whether the human spirit could overcome the impossible, or if they were destined to be nothing more than a footnote in the grand history of the Ekthar Empire. As Earth's remaining defenses crumbled under the weight of the Ekthar Empire's might, a flicker of hope came in the form of a distress signal. The silent vacuum of space, usually a place of emptiness, now carried a call for help, a call to humanity's forgotten protectors. The signal had made its way through the stars, faint yet desperate, and it was received at the highest command centers on Earth. Back on Earth, Captain Jack Hunter sat in the command room, surrounded by his team of seasoned soldiers and engineers. He was a battle-hardened veteran, a man who had seen the worst that war could bring and survived to fight another day. Jack wasn't just another officer. He was a leader, a man who knew the weight of responsibility, especially now, when the entire fate of Earth hung in the balance. His graying hair and the deep lines of experience etched into his face gave away the years of service he had given to the Earth Defense Force. But there was still fire in his eyes, a glimmer of hope that refused to be extinguished, no matter how dire the situation seemed. He knew the Ekthar were formidable, their weapons beyond anything humanity had ever faced, but he also knew one thing. Humanity had a secret weapon, their ingenuity, their will to survive. A map of Earth's solar system was spread out in front of Jack, a projection of all the planetary defenses that had already fallen to the Ekthar. He tapped his finger against the hologram, his eyes scanning the image. "We've got one shot at this," he muttered. His voice was low but steady, betraying none of the tension that lay beneath the surface. His team watched him closely, waiting for the plan to unfold. "We've received the distress signal," Jack continued, looking up at his team. "It's from the last surviving planet, a race of aliens that once helped humanity in its darkest hour. We got no choice but to respond. They've got technology, a power that can help us fight the Ekthar, but we need to act fast." As the mission was explained in detail, every member of the team knew the gravity of the situation. This wasn't just another assignment. This was a fight for survival. Captain Jack Hunter's plan was bold, audacious, and dangerous. But with the Ekthar breathing down their necks, there was no room for hesitation. The team moved quickly. They had limited time, and every second mattered. The mission would require the use of the latest Earth technologies, some of which were still in the prototype phase. But now, those experimental technologies would have to prove their worth. The first thing Jack's team did was gather in the launch bay, where the most advanced stealth ships and drones were being prepared for the mission. Earth's fleet wasn't as large as the Ekthar's, but it was fast and efficient. The stealth ships were designed with cloaking devices, allowing them to slip past enemy sensors without being detected. These ships could enter the heart of the Ekthar fleet and strike before the enemy even knew what hit them. Jack stood before his team, his eyes scanning each one of them, ensuring that they understood what was at stake. They weren't just soldiers. They were humanity's last hope. "This mission is life and death," Jack said, his voice firm but calm. "We can't afford to fail. We're going into the heart of enemy territory. It's a one-way trip for some of us, but if we don't act, Earth will be nothing but a memory." As the team prepared for their mission, a sense of urgency filled the air. Every soldier knew their role. Every drone pilot knew the risk they were about to take. Jack's heart pounded in his chest, but he kept his emotions in check. There was no time for doubt, only action. "Ready?" Jack asked as he stood before his team, a final moment of clarity before they all boarded their ships. The response came in unison. "Ready, sir." The sound of engines roaring to life filled the air as the sleek stealth ships launched from Earth's surface. They climbed into the sky, disappearing into the atmosphere before anyone could spot them. With their cloaking devices engaged, they were ghosts in the night, silent, deadly, and invisible. Back on Earth, the remaining military personnel watched the screens, eyes glued to the tracking systems. The clock was ticking. Every moment that passed brought the Ekthar closer to annihilating Earth's defenses. They were already on the edge of total destruction, and there was no guarantee that this mission would succeed. But Jack and his team were humanity's last hope. As the ships traveled through the blackness of space, the silence was deafening. Only the occasional hum of the engines and the soft beeps from the ship's computers broke the stillness. The crew members, despite their extensive training, couldn't help but feel the weight of the mission pressing on them. They had come to terms with the fact that they might never return to Earth. But that wasn't what mattered now. What mattered was stopping the Ekthar from obliterating their home. The technology aboard the ships was nothing short of extraordinary. The cloaking devices that shielded them from detection were the product of years of development. Even more impressive were the eye-controlled drones that accompanied the ships. These drones were equipped with the most advanced weaponry humanity had ever designed. Laser cannons, EMP bursts, and precision-guided missiles, all controlled by AI algorithms that made them more effective than any human pilot could ever be. The ships cut through the void of space, each one moving with stealth and purpose. They were heading toward the heart of the Ekthar fleet, a mission that seemed like nothing more than a death sentence. Yet, as they drew closer, something inside Jack burned with determination. He had led his soldiers through countless battles. But this was different. This was more than just a fight for victory. It was a fight for survival. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they arrived. The Ekthar fleet loomed in the distance, massive ships bristling with weapons and technology beyond anything humanity had ever seen. Jack's heart raced, but he remained calm. This was it. The fate of Earth rested on their shoulders. The moment of truth had arrived. "Prepare for deployment," Jack ordered. The ships descended into the chaos of the Ekthar fleet, cloaking devices active and drones ready to strike. The human team knew they had one shot at this. If they didn't take down the Ekthar flagship, their mission would be a failure. And with that, the battle began. The stakes had never been higher. Jack's heart was heavy, but his resolve was stronger than ever. The future of humanity depended on their success. As the ships locked onto their targets, Jack couldn't help but wonder, would humanity survive? Or would this be the end of everything they had fought for? The journey had only just begun, but one thing was clear. The fight for Earth was far from over. The silence of space was broken only by the hum of the human fleet's engines as it approached the Ekthar homeworld. The ships, cloaked and invisible to the advanced sensors of the Ekthar, drifted silently through the void, heading toward their destination. Captain Jack Hunter's face was hard. His eyes narrowed in concentration as he surveyed the massive Ekthar planet on his ship's holographic display. It was a world teeming with military power, its surface dotted with heavily fortified installations and vast fleets of warships. The Ekthar had built an empire of destruction, and now they would face humanity's wrath. The Ekthar had always considered humanity insignificant. They had underestimated humans at every turn, viewing them as primitive, weak, and easily defeated. But the message humanity was about to send would shatter that misconception forever. This was more than a battle. It was the fight for their survival, and the human forces were ready to prove their worth. As the human fleet neared the planet, the first signs of detection came from the Ekthar defense systems. Their advanced sensors, some of the most sophisticated in the galaxy, scanned the area, looking for any sign of an intrusion. But all they found was the stillness of space, an eerie calm that would soon be shattered. It wasn't until the human fleet struck that the Ekthar realized something was wrong. The first attack came out of nowhere, a sudden, devastating barrage of energy pulses from the cloaked ships. The Ekthar defense systems scrambled to respond, but it was too late. The humans had already launched their eye-controlled drones, which darted through the battle like shadows in the night. The drones unleashed a storm of fire upon the Ekthar ships, their lasers cutting through the alien vessels with pinpoint precision. The Ekthar warriors, caught off guard and confused by the sudden assault, tried to retaliate. Their ships were larger, stronger, and more heavily armored than anything the humans had ever encountered, but they had not accounted for one crucial thing: the brilliance of human tactics. The humans weren't relying on brute strength. They were using their intellect, their adaptability, and their ability to strike where the enemy least expected. "Engage the drones," Captain Hunter barked as he watched the chaotic battle unfold. His voice was calm, but his heart raced. This was a moment they could not afford to waste. The drones, small and nimble, darted around the massive Ekthar warships, their advanced AI systems guiding them with precision. They targeted weak spots, exploiting flaws in the Ekthar's advanced shielding and armor. Each shot was calculated, each move deliberate. The Ekthar, accustomed to overwhelming their enemies with sheer force, were now on the back foot, fighting to keep up with the human onslaught. From the human ships, advanced cloaking devices kept them hidden from enemy sensors, allowing them to strike with impunity. The Ekthar ships couldn't target what they couldn't see. The humans were like ghosts in the battle, appearing only to deliver a lethal blow before vanishing once more into the darkness of space. As the battle raged on, the Ekthar began to regroup. Their prideful warriors, known for their near-invincible reputation, rallied their forces to counterattack. A massive wave of Ekthar fighters surged toward the human fleet, weapons blazing. The sound of battle echoed in the void, a cacophony of explosions and energy beams. But the humans were prepared. As the Ekthar closed in, the human fleet deployed their most advanced weapon, orbital bombardment. From the human ships above the planet, massive energy cannons fired, unleashing devastating blasts that rained down upon the Ekthar forces below. The explosions were visible even from the farthest reaches of space, each burst of energy sending shockwaves through the fabric of the universe. The Ekthar tried to retaliate, launching their own barrage of counterattacks, but the humans were too quick. The advanced cloaking devices on the human ships allowed them to maneuver out of the line of fire, making it almost impossible for the Ekthar to land a direct hit. The fight was becoming a battle of speed and precision, and the humans were excelling. At the heart of the conflict, Captain Jack Hunter's ship, the Endurance, led the charge. He watched as his team of soldiers and engineers worked tirelessly, coordinating their movements and attacks with military precision. The crew knew their mission: take down the Ekthar flagship, the largest and most powerful ship in their fleet. If they could destroy it, they would cripple the Ekthar's entire operation. With every passing minute, the human fleet's strategy became clearer to the Ekthar. Their warriors had been trained to conquer through sheer might, not through the tactical brilliance the humans displayed. For the first time in their history, the Ekthar were faced with an enemy that didn't just rely on brute force, but on cunning and adaptability. The fight was far from over, but the momentum had shifted. The humans were no longer the underdogs. They were the hunters, and the Ekthar were the prey. The alien warriors, so used to being the dominant force in the galaxy, began to falter. Their pride had led them to underestimate the humans, and now they were paying the price. As the battle raged on, a particular moment stood out. One of the Ekthar warships, a colossal beast of metal and energy, aimed its massive guns at the Endurance, hoping to take it down with a single shot. But before the weapon could fire, a swarm of human drones swooped in, disabling the ship's weapons with laser precision. The Ekthar ship struggled, its weapon systems sparking and malfunctioning. In that moment, the humans proved that no enemy, no matter how powerful, could defeat them if they used their brains as much as their brawn. The battle continued to unfold in dramatic fashion, with orbital bombardments lighting up the dark skies of the Ekthar homeworld. The human fleet fought with a ferocity and determination that sent a clear message across the stars. Earth would not be conquered. The Ekthar, once so sure of their superiority, were now learning the hard way that humanity had its own power, its will to survive. As the fight wore on, the human forces began to push deeper into the Ekthar's defenses. The once mighty alien fleet, so sure of their victory, was now falling apart. Ship after ship was disabled, crippled, or destroyed by the precision and overwhelming strategy of the humans. The Ekthar warriors were no longer the ones in control of the battlefield. The tide had turned. Humanity, once dismissed as weak and insignificant, had become the unstoppable force that the Ekthar could not defeat. And for the first time, the warriors of the Ekthar knew fear. They knew that this battle would not end with their victory. It would end with their defeat. Captain Jack Hunter stood on the bridge of the Endurance, watching the battle unfold. His heart raced, but he remained calm. The tide had turned, and the humans had proven they were not to be underestimated. This was only the beginning. They had struck the first blow, but the war was far from over. And as the Ekthar fleet began to crumble, one thing was clear. Humanity had earned its place in the galaxy, and it was a place that no one could take away. The atmosphere was thick with tension. The battle for the Ekthar homeworld had raged for hours, and both sides were battered. The Ekthar fleet, once a symbol of unstoppable power, was crumbling, but they were not yet finished. The humans had made incredible progress, but they still faced a daunting challenge. The Ekthar warlords. These ruthless leaders were not only warriors of unmatched skill, but also the masterminds behind the brutal tactics that had allowed the Ekthar to dominate the galaxy for centuries. Captain Jack Hunter stood on the bridge of the Endurance, watching the battlefield through the giant holographic display. The human fleet was spread out across space, bombarding the surface of the planet with devastating force. Yet despite their success, they had to confront the heart of the Ekthar Empire, the warlords and their fortified strongholds on the surface. The mission was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning. "Prepare for the ground assault," Jack ordered, his voice calm but firm. His crew responded quickly, moving to their positions. They knew what this meant. They would be landing on the planet to face the warlords face to face. It wasn't just a strategic move. It was a desperate one. The Ekthar had fortified their strongholds with advanced defense systems that would make a direct assault nearly impossible. But the humans had no choice. The warlords had to be eliminated if they were going to win this war. The plan was simple but deadly. A small team of elite soldiers, led by Captain Hunter, would infiltrate the warlord's stronghold and disable the key systems protecting it. It was a suicide mission, but they had no other choice. The lives of thousands, if not millions, depended on it. As the team descended onto the planet, the soldiers could feel the weight of the mission pressing down on them. They were ready for anything, but they knew they were about to face the greatest challenge of their lives. The Ekthar warlords were known for their brutal strength, but the human soldiers were determined to succeed, no matter the cost. The drop to the surface was rough. The human soldiers' advanced stealth ships dropped into the atmosphere under heavy fire from Ekthar anti-aircraft defenses. As they touched down, the air was thick with smoke, and the sounds of battle raged in the distance. The soldiers moved quickly, using their cloaking devices to remain hidden from the Ekthar forces as they made their way toward the warlord's stronghold. The journey was perilous. Every step they took brought them closer to the heart of enemy territory, and with each step, the odds seemed to grow more insurmountable. As they neared their target, they encountered resistance. Ekthar soldiers, vicious and well-trained, attacked without warning. The battle was fierce, and the close-quarters combat was unlike anything the humans had faced before. The soldiers fought with everything they had, using their training. their technology, and their will to survive. The Ekthar were strong, but the humans were faster, more adaptable. The two sides clashed in a whirlwind of violence, the sound of energy weapons and the clash of metal filling the air. For every Ekthar soldier they defeated, two more seemed to take their place. It was during one of these intense skirmishes that Bonner, one of the human soldiers, made the ultimate sacrifice. Bonner had been with the team from the start, a man of few words but great courage. He was a soldier, a protector, and a friend. The team had come to rely on him, his steady presence in the heat of battle always a source of reassurance. But Bonner knew the stakes. He knew that they couldn't afford to fail. As the team advanced, they reached a critical choke point. The Ekthar warlords had set up a heavily guarded position, blocking the path to the stronghold. There was no way through without a direct assault, and the team was running out of time. Bonner, seeing the situation clearly, made a decision that would seal his fate. "Go," he shouted to Captain Hunter, his voice firm despite the chaos around him. "I'll hold them off." Before anyone could protest, Bonner sprinted forward, charging toward the enemy lines. He activated his personal cloaking device and vanished into the smoke. The human soldiers were left with no choice but to push forward, hoping that Bonner's sacrifice would buy them enough time. Bonner's final stand was nothing short of heroic. He fought like a man possessed, taking down enemy after enemy with a combination of strength, skill, and pure will. The Ekthar were not used to facing such fierce resistance, and they were caught off guard. For a brief moment, it seemed like Bonner might actually pull off the impossible, but the overwhelming numbers of the Ekthar were too much. The soldiers closed in on him, and with a final defiant roar, Bonner was struck down. His death was a blow to the human team, but it also solidified their resolve. They knew that they could not let his sacrifice be in vain. Captain Hunter, his face grim, gathered the team. "We fight for Bonner," he said quietly. "We finish this mission." The emotional weight of Bonner's sacrifice fueled their determination. The team pressed on, pushing through the heart of the enemy stronghold. They encountered more resistance, but with every enemy they faced, they thought of Bonner, his courage and sacrifice inspiring them to fight harder. They were not just fighting for survival. They were fighting for the memory of a fallen comrade. As the team reached the heart of the stronghold, something unexpected happened. They were not alone. An alien faction, one that had once been a part of the Ekthar Empire, but had grown disillusioned with their oppressive rule, stepped forward to join the humans. This faction, led by a former Ekthar officer named Thalra, had been secretly working against the warlords for years. They had seen the atrocities committed by their former leaders and knew that the only way to stop the Ekthar was to unite with humanity. The alliance was an unexpected one, but it was a powerful one. Thalra and her people had advanced technology and knowledge of the Ekthar that gave the humans the edge they needed to breach the stronghold's defenses. The humans protected their new allies, and together they fought their way to the heart of the Ekthar Empire. The final confrontation with the Ekthar warlords was fierce. The humans, with the help of their alien allies, stormed the warlords' palace, battling their way through the heavily guarded corridors. The warlords, formidable and ruthless, fought back with all their might, but they had underestimated the power of unity. The combined forces of the humans and the alien faction overwhelmed them, and one by one, the warlords fell. In the end, it was a moment of sacrifice and unity that had turned the tide. Bonner's sacrifice had sparked the humans' resolve, and the unexpected alliance with the alien faction had given them the strength to win. Together, they had toppled the Ekthar Empire. As the dust settled and the battle ended, Captain Hunter stood with his team, looking out over the wreckage. Bonner's sacrifice had not been in vain. The Ekthar had been defeated, and humanity had earned its place in the galaxy. "We did it," Captain Hunter said quietly, his voice filled with both sorrow and pride. "But we'll never forget what it cost us." The team nodded solemnly. They had won the battle, but the war had changed them. They had learned the true meaning of sacrifice, of unity, and of what it truly meant to fight for something greater than themselves. And as they looked to the future, they knew that the victory they had won would shape the galaxy for generations to come. The time had come for humanity to make its final stand. After weeks of battle, sacrifices, and bloodshed, they had reached the heart of the Ekthar Empire. The supreme battleship, Zarathos. This ship was not just a weapon. It was the pride of the Ekthar, the symbol of their unchallenged dominance over the galaxy. But now, it was humanity's greatest challenge. Captain Jack Hunter stood in front of his team, his eyes fixed on the holographic display, showing the Zarathos in the distance. "We fought too long, too hard to turn back now," he said, his voice steady, but filled with the weight of everything they had been through. The humans had fought the Ekthar on their homeworld, in the stars, and through countless skirmishes. But this battle would decide everything. This would be the end of the Ekthar Empire, or the beginning of humanity's extinction. The Zarathos was unlike anything they had ever faced. Protected by a massive fleet of smaller warships and a defense system made up of AI-controlled robots, the ship was nearly invincible. Its defense systems were designed to prevent any unauthorized attack, and its advanced AI could predict and counter human strategies before they even made a move. But humanity had something the Ekthar didn't: determination, creativity, and the willingness to sacrifice everything for the chance to win. The final assault began as Captain Hunter's fleet made its approach toward the Zarathos. Their cloaking devices activated, rendering them invisible to the enemy sensors. The Zarathos' AI-controlled robots, once thought unbeatable, now faced a challenge they had never anticipated: humans who could think beyond the limits of their own programming. The humans' first strike came in the form of an orbital bombardment. The fleet launched wave after wave of missiles, targeting the Zarathos' weak points. The explosions lit up the sky as the massive warship trembled under the assault. The AI-controlled robots that surrounded the battleship began to activate their defense protocols, but they were unprepared for the humans' ingenuity. "Prepare for hacking protocols," Jack ordered as the battle intensified. The human fleet deployed specialized drones, each equipped with the latest in cyber warfare technology. These drones zipped through the battlefield, dodging enemy fire as they made their way toward the Zarathos' outer defenses. The AI-controlled robots that patrolled the battleship's perimeter were powerful, but they were still vulnerable to the human-made virus that Jack's team had developed. The virus infiltrated the robots' control systems, disabling their defenses and turning their advanced technology against them. With their artificial protectors neutralized, the humans pushed forward, their fleet now free to close in on the Zarathos. But the battle was far from over. The Zarathos had more tricks up its sleeve. As the humans made their move, the supreme leader of the Ekthar, Zorak, appeared on the ship's bridge. Zorak was a giant of a being, a leader whose very presence commanded fear and respect. His advanced combat skills and strategic mind had made him the most feared warrior in the galaxy. He was the mastermind behind the Ekthar Empire's military success, and now he was about to face humanity's best. The final push began in earnest as Captain Hunter and his team boarded their assault ships and made their way toward the Zarathos. The humans' cloaking technology allowed them to remain unseen as they closed the distance, but as they neared the battleship, they were forced to drop their cloaking and engage the enemy head-on. The Zarathos had launched countermeasures, and the space-to-ground combat began. The human soldiers were ready. They stormed the surface of the Zarathos, their weapons blazing as they fought their way through the remaining defenses. The ship's halls, once pristine and filled with Ekthar warriors, now echoed with the sounds of battle. Sparks flew as human soldiers and Ekthar warriors clashed, their advanced technology meeting in a frenzy of energy blasts and explosions. Jack Hunter led the charge, his team following him into the heart of the Zarathos. As they fought their way toward Zorak, they faced wave after wave of Ekthar forces. These were the elite soldiers of the Ekthar Empire, trained for years to fight and die in battle. But despite their strength and numbers, They were no match for the humans' tactical brilliance and relentless will to win. The humans moved through the corridors, clearing each room as they went. The action was fast and brutal, with soldiers falling on both sides. It was clear that only one force would walk away victorious. But as they neared the central control room, the true test awaited them. Zorak. Zorak stood at the center of the control room, his massive frame illuminated by the glowing screens around him. His eyes, glowing with an unnatural intensity, locked onto Captain Hunter as the humans burst into the room. "So, the humans have come to face me." Zorak's voice was a deep, rumbling growl. "You have no idea what you are up against. This ship, this empire, is beyond your comprehension." Jack didn't flinch. He had seen the devastation the Ekthar had caused, the lives they had destroyed. But now it was his turn to end it. "We're not here to understand," Jack replied, his voice cold. "We're here to destroy everything you've built." With that, the final battle began. Zorak's combat skills were unmatched. He moved with the speed and precision of a predator, every strike aimed to kill. But Jack was ready. He had trained for this moment his entire life. The two warriors clashed, their blows echoing through the control room. Zorak was a force of nature, but Jack had the heart of a warrior. The fight was intense, with each of them pushing their limits, but in the end, it was Jack who triumphed. With a final powerful strike, he disarmed Zorak and sent him crashing to the ground. Zorak gasped for breath, his once imposing form now defeated. "You cannot defeat the Ekthar," he snarled. Jack knelt beside him, his voice low but filled with certainty. "We already have." As Zorak fell silent, the remaining Ekthar forces began to retreat. Without their leader, they had lost their will to fight. The humans had won. The Zarathos was theirs. The final push had been successful. The Ekthar Empire, once a dominating force in the galaxy, was no more. The humans had proven that with determination, unity, and the will to fight for something greater, even the greatest of empires could be toppled. Captain Jack Hunter stood at the control room's central console, his team surrounding him. The Zarathos was theirs, and the galaxy would never be the same again. "We've won," Jack said, his voice filled with a quiet sense of accomplishment. "But this is just the beginning." As the crew looked out at the stars, they knew that the war was over, but the future was wide open. They had proved that humanity was not to be underestimated. They had fought against an empire that thought it was invincible, and they had won. The final push had been the defining moment. The war was over, but the story of humanity's rise had only just begun. The battle was over. The once feared Ekthar Empire had crumbled beneath the weight of humanity's resilience and determination. The final clash, which had raged for days, was now nothing but a memory, a series of explosions and echoes in the vast emptiness of space. As the dust settled, the human soldiers stood victorious, though the cost had been immense. The war was over, but the scars would remain forever. Captain Jack Hunter stood on the command deck of the Zarathos, staring out into the stars. The Zarathos had once been the symbol of Ekthar's unstoppable might, but now it was a prize in humanity's hands. Around him, his team surveyed the wreckage, their faces a mix of relief and sorrow. They had won, but the war had claimed much from them. They had lost friends, soldiers, and comrades. Bonner's sacrifice still weighed heavily on their hearts. His death had made the final push possible, but it had come at a terrible cost. But now there was peace, or at least the beginning of it. The surviving Ekthar warriors, once fierce and unyielding, now found themselves faced with a choice: continue fighting against a humanity that had proven stronger, or join them in a new alliance. Zorak, the once immense leader of the Ekthar, lay defeated at Jack's feet. His eyes, though clouded with defeat, still held a glimmer of respect as he looked up at the human who had brought his empire to its knees. "You have done what no one thought possible," Zorak rasped, his voice filled with bitterness yet tinged with an unexpected admiration. The Ekthar are many, but they have been outwitted by a single race. You, humans, are a force like none I have ever seen. Jack looked down at the fallen leader, his voice steady. We didn't come here to destroy, Zorak. We came to survive. And we did. Zorak's eyes narrowed as he struggled to lift himself from the ground. Survival, yes. But it was more than that. You showed us something we did not understand. You showed us courage. The kind of courage that does not bend, no matter the odds. It was a rare moment of respect from the Ekthar leader, and Jack felt the weight of his words. In the end, it wasn't just about defeating the Ekthar. It was about proving that humanity could face any challenge, no matter how impossible it seemed, and overcome it. In their hearts, humans had always believed in the power of hope, unity, and perseverance, and now the entire galaxy had seen it firsthand. With the fall of Zorak, the Ekthar Empire was officially defeated, but the fight for peace was just beginning. As Jack and his team left the Zarathos, they were met by the sight of alien civilians, the once oppressed populations of the Ekthar's conquered territories, who now looked at humanity with a mix of awe and gratitude. These alien races, who had suffered under the Ekthar's ruthless rule, now saw humanity as a beacon of hope. They had been liberated by humans, and for the first time in their lives, they felt free. The human soldiers stood side by side with their new allies, the bond between them unspoken but strong. They had fought together, and they would rebuild together. The alliance between humans and these alien races marked a new chapter in the history of the galaxy. It was a chapter built on trust, understanding, and shared struggle. But there was still much work to be done. As the humans and their allies began to rebuild the shattered remnants of the Ekthar Empire, they faced many challenges. The Zarathos and other warships had to be repurposed, their weapons dismantled, and their systems repurposed for peaceful purposes. The once feared eye-controlled robots that had been used to maintain order under the Ekthar were now dismantled, their programming rewritten to serve the cause of peace. It was a long and difficult process, but the humans were undeterred. They had already proven that they could overcome the odds, and now they set their sights on creating a future where all races, human and alien, could live in harmony. The remnants of the Ekthar military, now leaderless and broken, had no choice but to accept humanity's terms and join the new Galactic Council. The Empire had fallen, but a new order was rising in its place, one where unity and cooperation were the guiding principles. In the midst of all this rebuilding, the emotional weight of Bonner's sacrifice still hung heavy on Jack's heart. He had seen so many of his men and women fall in battle, but Bonner's death had hit hardest. Bonner had been more than just a soldier. He had been a friend, a brother in arms. His sacrifice had given them the chance to win, and now, as they stood on the brink of peace, Jack could only remember the man who had given everything for the cause. The emotional closure came during the funeral ceremony. Bonner's body, like those of the other fallen soldiers, was placed on a ship and sent into space, where it would float among the stars forever. The humans gathered together, their heads bowed in respect as the ship carrying their friend drifted away. Jack stood at the forefront, his eyes misting over, but his resolve stronger than ever. "We will carry your memory with us," Jack whispered, his voice barely audible. "You gave us the chance to win. And we won for you, Bonner. We won for all of us." The soldiers, the surviving members of his team, stood silently around him, their hearts heavy but their spirits unbroken. They had lost much, but they had gained so much more. They had proven to themselves and to the universe that no force, no matter how powerful, could ever defeat the human spirit. With Bonner's sacrifice etched in their minds, the humans looked to the future with hope. The galaxy, once divided and at war, was now united under a common cause. The victory over the Ekthar was more than just a military triumph. It was a triumph of humanity's ability to stand up against evil, to fight for what was right, and to never give up, no matter the odds. The final victory had come at a great cost, but it had been worth it. Humanity had secured its place in the galaxy as a force to be reckoned with. The surviving Ekthar, now free from their oppressive regime, joined the humans in the quest for peace. Together, they forged a new path forward, one of unity, collaboration, and hope for a better future. And so, the story of humanity's victory over the Ekthar Empire came to a close. The war had ended, but the legacy of what they had fought for would live on forever. A new chapter had begun, one where all races could live in peace, united by the same cause. The humans had proven that, in the end, the greatest weapon was not technology or firepower, but the strength of the human heart. Victory had come at a great cost, but it was a victory that would echo through the stars for generations to come. And with that, the galaxy was finally free.